discussing issues on Judaism that come to mind. And one issue is the idea of emunah, or faith. It's something that I think if we had a good understanding of it, many of the issues that we struggle with in our own understandings of religion in general, Judaism in particular, would be addressed. So first of all, the Hebrew word emunah, as you might hear, is the root is the Hebrew word letters aleph, mem, nun, which of course is amen. And amen means something like, so be it, it is reliable. You may remember from the very famous story of the parting of the Sea of Reeds at the very end of chapter 14, where after witnessing the great salvation at the Sea of Reeds, the people say that they believed in God, vayaminu, they believed in God and in Moses, his servant. That doesn't mean they suddenly believe that there is God, but rather had trust in God. Because remember, as the story tells us, the divine promised that they would be saved from Egypt and brought into the desert, eventually into the land of Canaan. And the entire time they doubted, doubted, and doubted. So, for example, if you said, I promise you I'm going to do this, you can rely on me. And a person said, I don't rely on you. I don't believe you. I have doubt in you. And you said, and you're like, look, I'm really going to be there for you. I really am going to do this. And you came through and they said, okay, now I trust you. Now I believe you. So believe you is believe you as in a sense of you are reliable, not believe that you exist. Another meaning of the word emunah is ne'eman. In the daily prayers, God is called an El Rofeh Ne'eman V'Rachman, a reliable and compassionate healer. So ne'eman, that we can rely on something. So when you hear the word emunah as belief, because of medieval theology, where people doubted the existence of the God of revelation, this is a problem both in Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and preferred the God of Aristotle, which was a very, very distant prime mover, the first cause that brought the universe into being. The question of emunah was, does one believe in revelation? Does one believe that the scriptural account of God in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam is true? And that, I think, has distorted greatly the biblical understanding of emunah. So I think for our spiritual psychological purposes, I prefer the following. Now, this is not exactly what the Bible means, but remember, I want to take biblical words like emunah, which means something like trust, reliability, and ask how I can use that for my religious practice. So in my religious understanding, there is something called the will of the divine. And the will of the divine is that we human beings do our part in healing a broken world. So when I say I believe in this, it's somewhat deeper than belief. It's something that I know very deeply. It's a metaphor, clearly. It's a Kabbalistic myth, but it's a foundation for me. So when I use the word laha'amin, what I mean by this is I'm saying to the divine, I am reliable, that the divine can rely on me. So instead of emunah, I think of an ani ne'eman. I am reliable to do my utmost, which means continue to work, continue to look at all the parts of me that resist what it means to heal the brokenness in myself, my brokenness in the world. So I use the word emunah as a sense of I am reliable to the divine will to bring healing into the world. Now, so I'll go a step further than this. I just recently, as I go from one YouTube lecture after another, I saw an interview with Carl Jung. And Carl Jung grew up in a Protestant home. Of course, he went on his great journey of founding archetypal psychology. And this interview was, I think, in the 1950s. And the person says, well, after all this journey, do you believe in God? As if Jung had lost his belief in God because of his journeys into the depths of archetypal psychology. And Jung said, I don't use that word anymore. And we're waiting for him to say no, that he's an agnostic now that he's a psychologist. And Jung says, I know God. And that was quite stunning. A couple of reasons is for all of us who call ourselves God knowers, it's a really deep resonance that Jungian archetypal psychology led Jung into knowing God, not believing in God in a traditional theological sense. Further than that, you've heard me teach many times in the traditional morning blessings that you can find in any prayer book. We are called God knowers. Kulanu yod'e shemacha, all of us knowers of your name. So when people ask me, do I believe in God? I say, if I may, if what you mean is, do I assert my agreeing with a set of propositions about God that my faith suggests? I would say no. I really don't care about what others call, propositional theology. God is all knowing, God is all powerful, God is all present, and so on and so forth. Those are propositions about God. They don't relate to me. I'm not saying they're true or not true. It's just at the core of my experience as a religious person. When people say to me, do I believe in God? I respond, if you mean, do I agree with propositions about God that my religion states? I would say, I'm not saying I do or I don't. It's not core to me. It's called propositional theology. Then I say, I prefer to call myself a God knower, mean I experience the divine, and the experience of the divine is much deeper than any thought system. So a thought system tries to account for what happens when we experience God. And what I discover is the thought system I come up with, my theology, as it were, is less important. It's secondary to the experience of being a God knower. So for all of us who are trying to cultivate our inner spiritual religious lives in the context of a religion and wisdom tradition, I think it's really helpful if we use words in ways that strengthen our religious practice and not have other people's questions cause us to doubt that we have to assert our relationship with the divine and not try to justify our relationship in terms of other people's understanding what our relationship with the divine should be.